Little benches.
I think we're ready to get started. Our very busy county executive is here, so we'll get started.
I greet you all with the greetings of peace and shalom and salam and namaste and greetings to each and every one of you here. As we gather as faith leaders and members of our religious community to address issues of concern in this community, and we're very privileged to have among us today our county executive who is going to speak to us later on, and our representative Nancy Flory, who is also here. They listen to our voices and concern as residents of this wonderful Bible integrated, diversified community in Montgomery County. And so to start this program off, we always need blessings, and nothing could ever start with the blessings of God Almighty. We have our dear Reverend Matthew Sanctilo lead us.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I'll try to talk a little louder. The Talmud teaches us that all who can protest about something wrong that one of their family is doing and does not protest is held accountable to the family. All who can protest against something wrong that a citizen of their city is doing and does not protest is held accountable for all the citizens of the city. All who can protest against something wrong that's being done anywhere in the world is accountable together with all the citizens in the world. We come here together to work for the good of each and every human being in Montgomery County, in our state, in the region, and in the whole world. As people of faith, we understand the essential sanctity of each and every human being and our responsibility to protect and care for each and every human being. To build a society and a world where we can all feel secure and have hope for the future. May we find the strength to continue working to build that world, even when it's difficult to imagine that world. The sage Rabbi Tarfon once taught, "You're not obligated to finish the task, neither are you free to neglect it." May we in the faith community, working closely with the county executive, county council, and all the agencies and communities and people of Montgomery County, be united in our work for justice and the most vulnerable. Thank you so much for joining us all here tonight.
Because of time constraints, we are going to leave before the introductions to our moment of reflection and fellowship in our social hour after the program. So you're invited to stay back, please. And for those of us who have never been here for the very first time, once again, we want to welcome you. And hopefully, before the end of the day, you'll get to know more about each other. Now we go straight to the reports, and we have first our dear, wonderful young lady here, the Religious Land Youth Working Committee. Dr. Hedia will speak about the education subcommittee and all the other aspects of it.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm just going to give you, of course, many of you are very familiar with it, so I'm just going to say it in one sentence what the Faith Community Working Group does. Our goal is to connect the faith community with county government and other social services providers for social cohesion and for public safety, and all of the other issues that are involved in county life. So it's divided into three subsections, and because this got so confusing for people, we drew this handy little graph in your packets to explain how each of these subcommittees works. And so the Faith Community Advisory Council, which is this meeting you're here today, and the executive committee that runs it, and then each of these working groups. So the one I'm specifically talking about is the Faith Community Working Group, and I specifically am responsible for the Intervention and the Prevention of Violence subcommittee. And Batu, do you want to talk about solidarity programming first before I talk about it? So what we do is, in terms of order, we usually talk about the solidarity programming events and then we talk about the intervention and prevention of violence, so what we're trying to do to build the capacity of our community members to intervene and keep our community members safe, empowering us to be able to contribute to public safety, and a lot of those things we do together with the police department and other county agencies that are involved in public safety. And then we have the clergy response team for acts of violence, hate, and bigotry, or other kind of natural man-made disasters where we weren't able to prevent violence or some other kind of destruction. So we want the clergy and other faith community members to be able to respond in those instances. So we have a lot of really cool things we're doing in that department as well. So I will let Batra do hers first, and I will come right back to you. I'll leave that there.
I'll try not to take it with me when I go. So the Solidarity Programming Committee is divided into two groups. We have a subcommittee working on education issues and another committee working on programming. Right now, the members on the subcommittee are Casey, myself, Hedia, former Gaithersburg High School principal Fred Evans, Woman, how do you pronounce the last name? Bar, and Sabir, and Mimi. I don't know, Mimi didn't get pasted on here, I'm so sorry. Mimi's last name is Asani. We're looking for a member from the Eastern traditions to expand our discussions. So that's something that I'm sure Casey will be in touch with people about finding somebody to participate. All right, we want to be sure that the committee addresses the needs and concerns of the entire faith community, and that we're able to deal with issues related to the calendar, offering support to parents and students of all faith communities, and offering resources to the school system to help make sure that they are able to address the needs of their staff and their students. The Friendship Picnic, the programming committee is working with the Human Rights Commissions and the Committee to Combat Hate and Violence, and planning a friendship picnic on Sunday, September 14th. All right, September 14th is the day before the week of the Day to Serve. And so we're hoping to tie in programming with the Day to Serve, which begins the following week. And we are looking for individuals who will be able to represent the faith community on the Human Rights Commission's committees planning the event. If anyone needs to get in touch with me or Casey and be interested in volunteering for time, we'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
I have the
You-
clergy response.
I didn't do the intervention for any violence yet.
Oh, okay.
I didn't do it
I
yet.
said I filled anything missing. That's what I wanted to
I didn't do anything yet. She wanted to go first because she's got to run.
say.
Sorry. So the Intervention and Prevention of Violence Subcommittee is specifically trying to increase the awareness of the precursors of violence and equipping our members with the training and knowledge to intervene for vulnerable individuals. And so our program has been so effective and interesting that we've gained recognition from the White House for the model. And so they want to consider replicating this across the country as a great way of empowering communities with local government to promote public safety. And so we're really excited about that, and we were lucky enough to have our county executive join us for that meeting, our police chief and our director of HHS, Walia, and we look forward to developing that further. And so we've also created the Emergency Preparedness Coalition, which is a group of county agencies. So it involves the Office of Emergency Management, Health and Human Services, the Red Cross, the County Executive's Office of Community Partnerships, and us, the FCWG, the Faith Community, to develop a plan for disaster preparedness.
Police and fire as well.
Sorry?
Police and fire.
Right, sorry, police and fire and rescue. It's a really cool coalition. So we're all gathered together to try to see what we can do to empower the faith community to volunteer in times of disaster. It's really important. Everything from an apartment fire to a major disaster, the county would like to depend on the faith community to participate. So we have the National Interfaith Network coming down to Montgomery County to do a training for at least 35 individuals to become licensed and certified in Montgomery County to help. to be emotional, spiritual care workers. So not to cut down a tree or anything, but to literally be able to chaplain and minister to people in need in times of crisis. And so we're really excited about that training, and we really hope that people would be willing to participate and sign up. And of course, you just have to let us know. You'll get an announcement. Anybody who's given us their email address, you'll get an announcement from us on how to register and how to qualify for that program. And we look forward to having you involved in that. And so part of the coalition was also responding to acts of hate and bigotry. As you know, there was some desecration to some neighborhood synagogues, and we had a very important press conference to talk about how the county has a zero tolerance towards bigotry. And then we also had another press conference to talk about the anti-Muslim ads and how that's not a spirit in which we respect in this county and that won't be tolerated. Unfortunately, those bus ads it's a legal issue that's already been lost in the courts. They can't stop the ads, but we can at least show that Montgomery County has a zero tolerance towards such a thing. We've had a number of very cool events in the past, and so that information will kind of in a hurry. So I'm going to just refer you to the information that's in our packets. You now.
Yep. We're obviously overlapping here. The core group of interfaith clergy responding on call, responding to acts of hate or violence in Montgomery County has grown from 16, a little over a year ago, to a total now of 39, showing the growing interest in this. And beyond responding to acts of hatred that have just been referenced, we're now also working a fair amount in response to fires, which has drawn us into a wider coalition that's been needed, pulling together nonprofits like Interfaith Works and like the Women Who Care Ministries, who are represented here today, and a number of other organizations, including, of course, the fire department and the police unit dealing with victim witness. So that's an exciting and promising development. We have had meetings because of responding to fires. I reached out to Chief Lahr on a day when I didn't know, nobody else knew, it hadn't become public yet. A fireman had been, I'm sorry, this was before the fireman was died of an accident. There was another death that the firefighters needed to remove from an apartment in Rockville. So he said, yes, let's meet. We thought it was going to be about a half-an-hour meeting. There were, I think 4 or 5 of us at that meeting. And it went on for well over an hour. And we identified a whole list of ways in which we want to be engaged with the fire department, including training and being on call in responding to major fires. He sees a real need for us because of our connection with the immigrant community, with the different faith communities, for bridging a bit of a gap that exists right now. So again, this is a good example of the collaboration that we're enjoying as we bring together county government with nonprofits and the faith community. Hetty has referenced the workshops. The one coming up this fall, we know is going to be run by the best people in the country. So we are going to encourage you to get on board. We're going to be getting that word out, I hope, within another week. We just met yesterday at the police department on that one, and they're coming down from New York for that. Just another quick footnote to the press conference that we had just a little over a week ago now regarding the bus ads. That, to me, represented the best of what we're about here. When we first met to plan that, we were coming from many different directions. And we weren't sure we were going to do anything. But it was a result of prayerful reflection that brought us back together, affirming our unity, our solidarity as people of faith, to overcome hatred with love. And one of the things that I take from this whole year's experience as the Interfaith Community Liaison is an interest that I've heard coming from you too, that we need to be taking more time just to be getting to know each other and better appreciating what it is about our own faith and about our own personal journeys that have us now committed to working as a team. Thank you.
One of the things that we meet here is that our charter calls for reporting and engagement in creating a more beloved community in Montgomery County and advising the county executive on our needs and our concerns. So we must pay attention to what is being presented here today. We have our religious land use by Ken Howard and by the Sabir Rahman who will report those things.
Hi, Sabir and I are co-chairs of the Religious Land Use Committee, and I have to say that I actually was very reluctant originally to join the committee because religious land use, it just didn't seem to fit together. It didn't seem very religious or spiritual, this land use thing. But I came around to a different point of view on it because you've heard and you will hear some of the things the church and religious communities can do together to alleviate the problems that are existent in the community and to bring the community together and do lots and lots of good things. If we do not handle religious land use and property taxation correctly and effectively, that can be the one thing that can tear the rest of all of this apart. It can rob the faith communities of the resources that they need to be able to do the good works that they do, and it can destroy the relationship between the faith communities and the local government. So our mission is basically to serve as an advocacy resource, an education resource about the unique land use and property taxation interests of Montgomery County faith communities and the departments of local government. And on the flip side of that, we also want to work at developing a respectful, collaborative, and effective working relationship between the faith communities and the county government. The goals are in your packets. You can read them, as are our action items, and you can read about our progress on those. I'll just go directly to the results of our land use and property taxation burden study, which is probably the most important thing. We found two things as we looked at the burden that land use regulation and taxation, property taxation policy was placing on religious communities. And what we found, well, there was good news and bad news. The good news is there was no religious discrimination against any particular community. The bad news is it was against everybody. And maybe not even intentional, which is even worse. So not all faith communities have land use problems or encounter them, but the ones that do often encounter really, really serious and costly problems. We encountered 5 major areas of problematic practices that we're working on addressing. One is the lack of coordination among and between departments and agencies, a lack of areas of clear policies, procedures, and options. And even if they're clear to the people who promote them, they're not always expressed clearly to those of us who have to follow them. Inexplicable delays and sometimes losses of applications and paperwork, and not finding out about it for long periods of time. Inconsistency in the application of discretionary authority when you work for an entire year trying to appease one fire marshal or one particular person who is overseeing the particular permit that you're working for, and then they change him, and then the new person just tells you to tear out everything the other person made you do. And then lastly, but not leastly, unreasonably restrictive and likely unconstitutional criteria for awarding property tax exemptions, which can take years for us to fight, and high legal fees to resolve. I can tell you that because we just had to fight off over the last year. My congregation had to fight off an attempt to take away 61% of our property tax exemption, and it took us a year and several $1,000s of legal expenses to fight it off. So the burden, just about the 5 that we studied, we selected 5 from very different faith traditions, and among those we discovered indirect costs, that means delays, of 1 to 9 years, and sometimes up to 20 to 25% of indirect costs because of delays and retarded growth and so forth. And direct costs amounting among those 5 congregations from between $75,000 to $1.3 million of income loss over those congregations. So we're probably talking, just about 5 congregations, about $5 million So there are some things that we're working on, and you'll hear about them. They're in your packet.
So the last group to report now is from the Neighbors in Need Working Group, and we have Rabbi David and Mr. Claire Wagon.
Many of you are familiar because many of you have been to one or more of the meetings that we've convened this past year. Some of us, it's like averaging about once a week, it seems. And for Casey, it's like maybe 10 to 12, 15 meetings a week. So Claire Wagner and I co-chair the Neighbors in Need Committee Working Group. And since we have very limited time, we've met as a working group twice. And from out of those meetings, we've created two working committees. One is on hunger relief, and the other is on healthcare. There are two other committees in process. They are aging and homelessness. I'd like to say a few words about the hunger relief committee, and then Claire will talk about the healthcare committee. Hunger Relief Committee, the most important thing to report, I think, is the initiative to move forward with nonprofit executives here in the county responsible for hunger relief in their own way, faith community leaders, business representatives, and the Montgomery County Community Foundation to reinstitute the Montgomery Hunger Relief Campaign. And to do it this fall. This is a campaign that was founded by Keith Haller. He's the chair of the fund for Montgomery. And the goal is to raise $250,000 to be distributed primarily within the county. The exact goals are being worked out by the committee, and we hope to engage all of you in the in the fall and well into the next year in achieving this goal. Claire, would you please come up? Claire, by the way, is with KPC Buddhist Temple, and I'm with Kalel Congregation.
Okay, very briefly, because in your packet there is the mission statement for the Healthcare Committee, all of its goals and all of its actions, and they're spelled out very thoroughly. But this committee is a very large committee and a very, very active committee. It has at least 21 active members that I know of right now. And it's broken up into two action groups. One of them is focusing on the Affordable Care Act. And they are working with the Primary Care Coalition and Interfaith Works, who oversees the navigators that educate the public and sign people up for the Affordable Care Act. And they came together and decided to have a person that works with different faith organizations, a representative from these organizations, educates them about the Affordable Care Act so that then they can in turn go back to their faith communities and begin to educate their communities more thoroughly about the Affordable Care Act and get more people signed up. The other group is called the Active Health Programs in the Faith Community Group. And what they're doing is they're searching faith communities that have really effective programs that reach out to what they call the dually eligible people in their communities, meaning Medicaid and Medicare people. They're finding who runs these committees, these programs, what's successful about them, and then in the fall, the idea is to bring all of this expertise about the Affordable Care Act and all of this expertise about successful programs reaching these dual eligibility constituents and providing that information to representatives from faith communities that are invited from all over Montgomery County in a half-day program. And it's just to make everybody be able to give more, offer more, do more, and be better in these areas. That's it.
I'm going to introduce to you a man, a gentleman who probably don't need much of an introduction. His outreach and commitment to embracing diversity of working towards a pluralistic community is very clear. With outreach and commitment in embracing diversity is obviously at our disposal. Hugh Conkey, for example, have an interfaith community liaison, and all the previous reports reflect the benefit coming from his vision. And we once again very grateful to our county executive, Mr. Ike Leggett, to provide this kind of forum where we as faith leaders can address issues of concern in our community. And to this we ask our goodly brother here.
Thank you. Let me also acknowledge the presence of a colleague on the County Council, Nancy Floree, who is here today. Nancy's presence is especially important because she serves as the chair of the Planning and Economic Development Council, which oversees many of the issues you just described. We haven't had a chance to make sure you get a chance to talk. First of all, thank all of you for coming out this evening. It's really a remarkable showing at some very difficult times. Hot weather, beautiful weather outside. I'm sure that you can be doing other things other than attending a meeting this afternoon. And secondly, I apologize for the fact that we are here as opposed to the auditorium, but there's an election going on, and there's a plan that is not considered because they're upstairs conducting the election at this point in time. Let me just address a couple of points that I think are important. First of all, your participation, your involvement, your engagement. When we first looked at the establishment of this office and the creation of all the things to be undertaken, there were two things that came to mind. One was education, that is knowledge, having the ability for people to understand and to be engaged. The second one was to intervene and to do so early. It pains me at times when we're dealing with problems at the tail end, as opposed to getting involved much more actively at the beginning. And thirdly, you are better equipped to do those things than those of us in county government. You hear from the people first. You see them. You know the pain, the suffering, the challenges that we're going through as a community. And it is best for you to try to deal with them. And we simply want to help you to deal with many of the challenges that you face throughout the process. And the fourth thing for me was this real challenge of land use. It is, by and large, a real problem in this county. Here's why. First of all, the county has developed some very clear parameters. If you note the development in Montgomery County, if you follow, quick indication, follow the red line, and you'll see that we develop in wedges and corridors in a very narrow format. The second one is follow the agricultural reserve. You'll see that there's limited development in those areas. And the third thing is look at the expansion of the number of people in Montgomery County. We're now well over 1 million residents in Montgomery County. And fourthly, the diversity in Montgomery County. That diversity is important because it provides us with a foundation for a requirement for more houses of worship that are in fact different. So all of those things are conflict in the land use area. Now, you could have noticed this conflict, as I did, many years ago in the challenge. And here's how I noticed it. 25, 30 years ago, you would drive by and you'd see one house of worship, and you'd see several languages in several services that are in that same house of worship. There may be a 9 o'clock service for some, 11 o'clock service that's Spanish, 3 o'clock service maybe in French, all utilizing one facility. It suggests to us that at some point, no matter how efficient that house of worship be, there's no way for them to accommodate all of those various factors that will come together at some point in time in a house of worship. And you can look at that going back 25, 30 years ago, and that has increased significantly over the period of time we've been involved. And so that's the conflict that we have. And I think that we have a golden opportunity now to make a profound difference. What you indicated earlier about the confusion, the cost, and the delay and the failure of many houses of worship to get involved earlier in the process, to understand the rules and regulations, to find ways in which to avoid some of the challenges that reduce costs, to find ways to get around some of the regulations as possible, to even come up with different approaches that we can follow. We need to continue to do that. So that is very, very important, because those conflicts that I've just described will continue. They will continue. The next problem that I see that I think is very, very important are those in need in Montgomery County. We are comparatively a relatively affluent community. But unfortunately, there's large areas of poverty in Montgomery County. We have more kids who are on free and reduced meals in Montgomery County in our school system than the size of the entire school system in the district alone. And that's a very, very difficult problem in our community. And so, how is it that we have affluent people with such poverty that continue to exist? We've done a great deal in affordable housing, but the numbers continue to rise. We've done a great deal in providing additional support for health care, but the numbers continue to rise. We fed more people and provided more meals. The number continues to rise. And if we can't do it through our faith community, to address it at the beginning, to help find jobs for people, to make certain that their skills are better utilized, and when there are truly areas of need, to turn to work together with the county's support, working through and with you, there's a challenge. Last Saturday, I was in the Silver Spring Tacoma Park area. I went there to visit a feeding program, and they provide food once a month. Once a month. And they have about 500 people on the waiting list. And when I was there to help in the distribution of food, I turned to the organizer, a relatively young person, and I said, we provided some support for the county to help you in this program. And they operated out of a church basement. And he said, well, we've exhausted virtually everything that the county has provided. We've exhausted virtually everything that the church has provided. And we received some support from other organizations in the area. But the need continues to grow. We anticipated that we will have somewhere between 350 to 400 people to feed. We're well over 500. And as I looked out at the line, people were lined up. These are the people who are the poorest of the poor in our county. And so he said, I've had to cut back. He said, one of the things we used to provide, big chicken, some meat. And so I said, what's the problem? He said, well, we had to cut back on the meat. I said, so what were you providing before you cut back? He said, 1 chicken a month. Repeat that. 1 chicken a month. I was stunned. 1 chicken a month. And he had used his own credit card, borrowed money from the church, he was in debt. And so before I left it, I got on the telephone and I called my people to say, we got to fix this. I don't care what the requirements are, there is no need for something like this to be fixed. 1 chicken a month. And I stood there for an hour and a half, passing out food. Butter, margarine, bread, vegetables, no vegetables, no meat. That shouldn't happen. That should not happen. And it will not happen. Because we have too many people of faith and goodwill and a government that I would believe that is much more responsive to allow that to happen in this county. And this is what I see as our ability to come together to plug those holes that exist, to provide that safety net. So I embrace very much this challenge of providing support for those in need. We will continue to work with you on the land use challenges. They are challenging. We will continue to intervene to make certain that we get ahead of the problems that may divide us as a community. And I want people to be much, much more engaged. Oftentimes I've used an example that I think that you've not heard me describe. Let me describe it for you in terms of how I see our county, how I would see our different cultures, how I would see our faith. My description of something from my home state of Louisiana. I'm a very big fan of something called gumbo. It's a very unique dish in Louisiana. Sometimes people confuse gumbo with soup, and they are different. And when you look at a community like Montgomery County, the assumption is that we simply all come together. And by coming together, we can be united and we'll get the best out of all the things that we want to do in our community. But when you do it and you come together like a soup, it is sometimes grinded in such finite detail that it develops a flavor, but the individual pieces loses their identity. All you see is this bland-looking dish. But in the gumbo, you maintain the individual components of it. You see the seafood, you see the meat, you see the vegetables. But within the gumbo, there's something that holds the gumbo together, and it's called the roux. It's the liquid. The liquid holds all of those individual pieces together. But the pieces never lose their identity. And so when you look around Montgomery County, look at our houses of worship, I want to assure us that we maintain our separate identity. It is unique to have such diverse houses of worship, such diverse faith within our community. And what brings us together is our commonality to do what is right for our entire community. That's our root. That's the liquid that holds us together. Our common belief that we can do things together. It advances all people together. So when I look at this, I don't want this group or any segment of what we are doing to lose our individuality and in some way lose that identity. We can be separate in many ways in terms of what we do, how we practice our faith, but we are together through this common root, this liquid that holds us together because we want all of us to succeed. And so my view of this organization, everything else, is that we become one big, happy, unified gumbo. That we all can eat together. That we are not a soup, that we lose our identity. You know, one of the things that I've done with people who come here from other parts of the country, I've taken them to different events that I've participated in. And to go to various houses of worship and to show people the differences. People see that in our county. It is such a marvelous thing to be able to do. Because what we see here, and what we see through the leadership of Bruce Adams, and what we see through Casey and what he is doing, and all of you working together, is unique. There are few communities that have such broad diversity, such large numbers in this diverse community, are working so well together. That does not suggest that we do not have some challenges ahead, and we do. But I am committed to working with you to make certain that in partnership we can get to those concerns. I thank you for your report, and I thank you for the work that you've done. And I look forward to our continued partnership because I think that we can do much more. And at the end of it, we'll have a big happy gumbo if we can all get together. Let me call my colleague, County Council Nancy, who may want to say a little word. Nancy.
Thank you all for being here, and I gather you've had a lot of meetings, and it's a tribute to your commitment to helping us as a county solve our problems that you're here. I mean, you're here. I'm just thinking, is my guy here? Yes, he is. And I want to, Casey has done a fabulous job. He's really taken this group on the road, and that's what's so important to us as a community, to be able to move forward on all these issues. I was looking at your list of groups that you have identified in your database work. God bless you. You've identified 912 communities, faith communities in Montgomery County. And so my charge to you all is let's improve our ability to connect with everyone. Let's work together to find ways that we can share this information. I cannot tell you the number of times, Ike and I and my colleagues, we talk to a lot of community members, and the number of times I tell people that little data, pieces of data, about how many children that we have on free and reduced meals. They are shocked. Now, perhaps the people you spend a lot of quality time with are not shocked. But I know people in our congregation are shocked. They think that only happens elsewhere, largely the district. Even in the community I live in, they collect money every month. It makes me so mad. It's not a bad thing, but they have a special program to give support to a place in the district. And it certainly needs it. But they are unaware of what we're dealing with right next door. And we need your help in getting the word out to your congregations, your communities, as to the extent of the need. It is real and it is here. I'm also really grateful to Casey and to Ken and Saad for working on the land use issues. I'm starting to get emails from people asking me for my professional advice on their problems, so I guess that's a good thing. It is a real huge issue, I know, lots of complexities, and if it cheers you up any, the developers are just as mad about all this stuff as the faith community. But I do think there are solutions out there that we can work together on. I think that's really, it's really possible for us to find ways for appropriate decisions to be made in the right context. But at the end of the day, what we as a county, I think, need from you all is to weigh in, to show up, to remind your congregations to pay attention, encourage them to vote. That's an easy one right now. However they vote, but encourage them to be engaged. I had a searing experience, it was in the mid-'80s. I used to be a member of the county planning board, and we had a controversial case in front of us. It was a Korean church that wanted to build a senior housing facility. Who could argue about that? Well, a lot of people could. And as our public hearing wore into the night, I realized that almost every single person who had very legitimate concerns, traffic, trees, that kind of thing, they were all members of my church. They meant well. They're smart about this. But they were unaware, really, of the kind of competing priorities that we as a community have to face and work through. So I just leave you with that thought. That's the hard part of all this, getting everybody else to agree with us. But I do think, but with information and with love, we can ease over some of the tensions that are out there. We can find solutions to some of the dreadful hate activities that have occurred. We can find solutions to some of the education issues that are simply deep in our community that we must face. And we can find solutions to bringing us all together to address poverty in a real and genuine way that makes a real difference for all your members, because they are members of your community, because it's them, it's their soul. You're in charge of that. for all of these folks, and they need this kind of service, I think, to make them all whole. So thank you for being part of all this. Thank you for your work in the community. Thank you for coming out on the hottest day of the year so far to share your views with us and to help us do a better job of serving you. Thank you.
Our county executive indeed has set the space for all of us here to move forward, as mentioned by our dear Nancy. But our chief executive from Montgomery County has indeed mentioned something here that I want to reflect upon. He said, let's work together. Let's work together. This is the emphasis we have to emphasize here today. We have to work together if we're going to demonstrate in our own individual organizations the capacity for growth and enhance our own individual and collective efforts so that we can all make Montgomery County a happy place to live. So now we have a few moments. I know our dear brother Mike has another commitment, so we entertain a few questions.
Sure.
Okay, we got it.
Our
But let's have a
dear
question.
friend, colleague, well,
I'm sorry, there's been questions.
yeah. So I know that he's on call someplace else at 5:30.
So if you have any questions,
Is there any questions or comments you want to make? Get a question?
Yeah, hi, thank you. I just wanted to know what organizations that you were talking about on Saturday.
I'll tell you privately.
yes. Anybody else want to ask a question? Well, I presume you're always very happy to hear our. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you. And then we share a moment of photograph.
Nobody when it comes to,
I'm sorry, just one quick question. You had mentioned that the number of free reduced lunches for kids is large. I'm an SPS teacher, I teach in schools, so I'm fully aware of it. But as a teacher, I see it and I can address it so much in the classroom, but what could we do in terms of what would you recommend in terms of neighbors, communities, what should we say to them in terms of addressing that issue?
Well, we don't have to reinvent the wheel because I think most houses of faith have some type of programs that already exist. It may simply be at a level that is not commensurate with the problem. And in addition to that, there are organizations in the county that are doing much of what we want to do. They just need help and support. What Nancy said is correct. There are people who do not know and understand the depth of the problem. So if they understood the depth of the problem, whereby they are contributing this amount of providing food here, the problem is really here. And one thing you need to do is express the depth of the problem and urge more to give. And there are organizations that you can contribute to either directly with food and or donation and or through your own individual house of worship. There's one that I was at the other day, but actually in a house of worship. They just simply did not have, they've got a model in place. They just simply need more support in order to reach the number of people.
Thank you.
I'd like to see, my business is in Silver Spring. You were mentioning somebody there that needs some help to relax the food.
Right.
The needs. So I'd like to reach in there. If I can.
We could connect you to the organization.
Okay, we have the last two questions.
Has there been any thought given to using the situation as you described it as a teaching moment in terms of us looking at our diet, at the foods that we do eat? Yes, chicken once a month, I understand, but sometimes I think it's in our best interest to also teach folks the value of eating differently. And how you do that, I don't know, but I think this kind of a situation would at least allow us to introduce the subject and try to bring a new way of eating into the homes.
The chicken was the common staple among all of the things that I think that they want in terms of the meat.
Right.
Because there are different people there of different faiths. And the challenge would be, how do you introduce healthy eating and other kinds of practices to a community that is barely eating at all. And they were simply, these were the poorest of the poor in the county. And so it's at a level that people far too often do not get a chance to see. So yeah, there may be some ways to do that, but the immediacy of what I saw was that they need to simply have the option. So if I've got an option that a person of such faith, I don't want to eat the chicken, but I have enough everything else, that's
Right.
fine.
Right.
But if the other person with different faith said, well, I want the chicken, then they should have that option. Right now, they don't have the option. That's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ike, it was your initiative that got this off the ground, as I understand.
Well, in reaction, it was a combination of two things. It was Councilmember George Leventhal on the county council who also pushed for it from that end, and we were pushing it from this end. And so we were able to pull it together and make sure we realized it.
So I just would like to say that with Casey's leadership and with the interest of so many people, we've been able to create this. This is like a government in and of itself. And I just want to say that moving forward, we want to move forward. We want to build on this, but we need more resources. Casey can't do it himself.
Right.
And so we, coming from myself, and I know we've discussed this within our committees, we look to your help in securing this.
Hopefully that's something in the next administration.
Next administration. Looking forward to your support. And Nancy's as well. So I just wanted to put that out there.
I understand, yeah. Okay, we will. Thank you.
We have a special presentation by Reverend Casey here.
Thank you. You all know that no meeting of any significance happens without our friend Chuck Lee there to take a photograph of it. This is his ministry. He's been recording, I think for historic purposes, really. I mean, what we're doing is quite unique. And what he does, he goes home, and by 2 o'clock in the morning, I have the pictures, the best ones.
Well, sometimes
that
it's
I
3
can send
o'clock.
you.
Sometimes it's 3 o'clock.
Okay? Well, the next morning, I can spend a couple of hours sending these off. Then they get on other websites. That has been doing more to inspire and to uplift the whole idea of interfaith relations. People can see it. Well, she's saying mention his award. I have the pleasure, I think of surprising Chuck. I asked you just a moment ago, Chuck, how did it be possible for you to set that camera in such a way that somebody else could take the picture? And he just said, well, I'd rather take it myself. But now, it's my pleasure on your behalf.
Get up there, I'll take it on
Chuck
mine.
Lee,
You gotta go up there.
Yes. This, by the way, was a picture taken on April 26, 2013. I encouraged Chuck. He was doing such wonderful work reflecting the spirit of interfaith relations. The Pluralism Project at Harvard had a national contest on the best photograph reflecting the spirit of interfaith relations. Guess who won the top prize? Around the world, and now I want to read the caption below it. Now, this, by the way, is Amant Dusty, who is leading prayers at this time today, and Dan Spiro with JITS. And in the background, of course, this was at the Interfaith International Cultural Center.
And actually that picture that's pictured in the background is a photograph of the ancient temple in Syria that's been attacked since the war.
And who authored
And
this book?
that's Dr. Kelly Clark's book on religious pluralism that I...
And who contributed to it?
Uh,
Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So there's a lot in this photograph. Yeah. So, and this is the title. Now, Chuck gives all the credit for the title, but who came up with the title? Was that your wife, Carol, or was that you? Both of them, by by the way, she's the current president, Chuck's been a past president of the best camera club, perhaps, certainly in the region, if not in the country. And so they're quite a team. So the title is Conversation in Response to Boston Marathon Bombing.
It was our town hall.
Yeah. Okay. National contest by the Pluralism Project. First place winner, Charles Lee, April 24th, 2013.